Hello and welcome to News Central TV. I am Adebola Adeduba. The top stories are this hour. Nigeria police reassure voters of safety and security ahead of Edo governorship election. Mpox vaccines administered in Rwanda for the first time in Africa. United Nations says about 14 million people are displaced in West and Central Africa due to insecurity. And details shortly. And let's begin with update on the Edo governorship election, where the Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of the police contingent for the Edo State governorship election, Frank Mba, has again boosted the confidence of eligible voters in the state with a vow of adequate security before, during and after the election. Mba gave the assurance at a press briefing held at the command headquarters in Benin City, the Edo State capital. News Central's correspondent Austin Azu tells us more.
As the Edo State governorship election inches closer, it appears attention has shifted to the police readiness towards ensuring adequate security in the 4,519 police units and 192 ward collation centers across the 18 local government areas of the state.
If there is not enough security, the whole place will be there will be anarchy, there will be a problem everywhere. So with enough security, we can forestall those people who might envisage problems. So I quite appreciate that there is security everywhere.
Well, for now, I think I have confidence in them from what I'm seeing in Benin City. Though I have not traveled to other local governments, so I can't speak for what's happening in other local governments or other senatorial districts. But from what I can see within the city center, I think they are ready. We will not be experiencing much glitches around here. But I hope what they are doing here, they are replicating in the interlands and the interiors.
Meanwhile, the Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of the police contingent for the Edo State governorship election, Frank Mba, accompanied by other top police officers, is here to address the media, observers and other critical stakeholders about their level of preparation during, before and after the election.
Provide a level playing field for everybody. We will be politically neutral. We will be professional. We will enforce the laws strictly, firmly, but politely. We will hold people accountable when they infringe on the laws. We will make arrests where necessary, and will ensure that those who go out of their way to break the laws don't go scot-free.
While reassuring the about 2,629,025 registered voters of adequate security, the DIG said the force has deployed troops on the land, air and water to protect and provide surveillance within the state during the election on Saturday. On vote buying and voter intimidation, the DIG threatens that anyone caught will be brought to book.
As we are speaking, don't be shocked that vote buying is going on in people's bedroom, in people's home. But what will we do is to ensure that those that now try to trade on votes within those areas that are under our radar are stopped and brought to books as quickly as possible.
The police further revealed that special attention would be given to physically challenged persons, nursing mothers, elderly and sick persons on the election day. In Benin, for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
Meanwhile, the Edo State government has declared Friday, September 20, a work-free day in the state. And this is set to enable workers and other electorates travel to their voting areas ahead of the governorship election on Saturday. In a statement by the Secretary to the Edo State government, Joseph Eboigbe, the government reassured that security measures have been provided to ensure a free, fair and credible election. And to unpack details regarding the Edo State governorship election is a legal practitioner and also a public affairs analyst, and that's Taiwo Ojumu. Good morning. Glad to have you join me on the news.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. Looking at the elections to hold over the weekend on Saturday, I mean, how would you assess the preparation so far of INEC? Do you think they're ready to carry out a free and fair election in Edo State?
Yes, first and foremost, let me say that INEC has no excuses. I mean, no excuses time around. A little above a year ago, I could recall vividly when INEC announced the dates for the two off-cycle elections, that is the Edo and Ondo elections. And I did say, yeah, I think, yes, it was there. I said that INEC has no excuses. We don't want to hear stories this time around. Now, I mean, as typical of every human process, you know, there are bound to be glitches here and there, but for INEC, having had a little over a year to prepare, if there will be glitches at all, they should be as minimal as possible. They should not go into the root of the election. Such glitches, if at all there will be any, should be such that would not undermine or would not cast any shadow of doubt on the credibility of INEC as an umpire. So yes, INEC should be prepared. I'm not in the position to assess INEC in terms of their preparation, but as a concerned citizen, as somebody who has been following the trend, I think INEC has no excuses this time around. We don't want to hear stories of glitches. I mean, stories of changing the rules. You know, you brought out some guidelines. I remember during the presidential elections, INEC rolled out some guidelines, and INEC itself breached its own guidelines. I don't think that will be the position this time around. Yes. But like I said again, there might be glitches here and there, but those glitches should not be substantial enough to cast some shadow of doubt on the election.
Okay, let's talk security now. The police have expressed readiness to make sure that voters get materials, and also materials are protected during the exercise of this election. What are your take or concerns about this?
Yes, the thing is, as we've seen in time past, I sincerely hope and I pray that the security, particularly the police force, will not be used as a tool in the hands of the politicians to rig the elections. Because I mean, yes, Nigeria, where we've seen where security agents, especially police force, with all due respect to them, I mean, there are a lot of good police officers. I have many of them as friends, as lawyers, but there are so many of them too who are very corrupt. We've seen police officers who will supervise the snatching of ballot boxes, who will be there while all manner of electoral malpractices will go on. But like the DIG said earlier, you know, I think that what we want from the police is to provide security to ensure that that everything is free and fair, that there's some peace and calm. And of course, knowing Edo State, I mean, I schooled in Edo State. I studied law in University of Benin, so I know Edo State very well. Edo State is prone to violence. Edo State people, I mean, don't respect to them. I mean, we have seen instances of elections where, I mean, elections in Edo State that were marked with all manner of violence. This election now, being a 3-horse race, is going to be a very keenly contested one. And so we hope that the security will live up to the expectation in terms of ensuring that there's peace, there's calm, and of course, there are no major form of electoral malpractices.
Just to follow your train of thought regarding the ballot, looking at the menace of vote buying, which has been a recurring problem, for so long now. As a legal practitioner, what measures do you propose to help eradicate this menace?
Yes, thank you. Just like many other criminal activities and many crimes in the country, it's almost very difficult globally for any society to live above crimes. But at least, I mean, the aim is to strive for a society that is that crime rate is so low, and that I mean, so vote buying, at the risk of sounding pessimistic now, vote buying I think has come to stay in Nigeria. But then I think it's that time the government start to prosecute those who are caught in the act. But I mean by those who are caught in the act, I mean those who give the parties involved, that is those who collect the money and those who give the money. If somebody is scapegoated once or twice, I I think that there'll be a lot of improvement. But the truth is, vote buying has come to stay. We can only hope, and hope that once the government begins to take seriously this issue of vote buying, and people begin to, to go to jail for it, then it will become as minimum. As minimal as possible. It's very reduced. So, like I said, the major step that the government should take is to ensure that anybody caught in that act of vote buying should be prosecuted. It doesn't matter how big that person is. If you're a politician, it doesn't matter how big, how influential that person is. Everybody who is involved in that act must be brought to book. That will serve as deterrence to potential and prospective vote buyers and vote givers. And those who trade in vote buying.
Well, we do hope that vote buying is not here to stay, but to leave, and then those found culpable are brought to book. But let's talk about voter apathy or otherwise. You foresee voter apathy come this election on Saturday in Edo State or otherwise?
Well, I do not foresee any form of apathy, and I'll tell you why. This Edo election, for me, looks like a repeat of what obtained during the presidential election, in 2023, because, like I said earlier, this election is a three-horse race for the first time since the return of democracy, where we have the ruling party, that is the PDP, we have the APC, that is the major opposition party, and of course LP. Now, the man who is contesting under LP, the former NBA president, Olumide Apata, is somebody that is well respected. He did well, as NBA president, and so he has brought some kind of competition to the game. There are a lot of youth wings that are actually rooting for the man, and so I don't see any form of apathy. Apathy, because this election is going to be keenly contested. A lot of people, especially the youth wing, will come out. Then the Peter Obi effect of Labour last year will also come to play. A lot of people are tired of the two major parties, that is the PDP and the APC. So I see a lot of people, especially the young voters, coming out en masse to vote. If there will be apathy at all, perhaps it will be on the part of the older ones. But for the young generation, a lot of people, the man, I'm not trying to hold for anybody now, but I don't see any form of apathy, because a lot of people will come out to vote en masse just to taste some kind of change.
Well, what would be your appeal for calm or peace to ensure a free and fair election in Edo State on Saturday? I'm talking about those coming out to vote in the state, security officers, the police, as well as INEC officers or officials conducting the election. What's your appeal to them when it comes to peace and calm in the conduct of this election on Saturday?
Thank you. My appeal will be that we should understand first and foremost that that elections are no do or die affairs. In a democracy, there'll be winners and there'll be losers. So the fact that you so much believe in a candidate does not mean that candidate will win. Elections are a test, a popularity contest, not necessarily the test. Not the test of who is the best or who is better. Elections are a test of popularity contest. So if you actually want your party to win or your candidate to win, you come out and mass and vote for that candidate. And in the event that candidate does not emerge, life goes on. So the appeal and advice is that do not take these things to heart. Do not take election personal. As much as I know that the choice of a candidate of a leader can go a long way in shaping policies, economic policies that will invariably have ripple effects on people generally. But life does not end there. So I'm appealing for peace, calm, and orderliness. I have a lot of friends in Edo State. Edo is like my second home. Like I said earlier, I schooled there, and so I have a lot of colleagues there. And so I'm using the platform to appeal to them that elections are not do or die affairs. A democracy is where the most popular candidate wins, not necessarily the best candidate. So having that in mind, it will give some kind of assurance that it's one of those things. There are always losers and there are always winners. So yes, moving forward, may the most popular candidate win. I would have said may the best candidate win, but this is democracy. This is politics. May the most popular candidate win. And I wish the three candidates and other candidates all the best.
Indeed, may the best man win, I should say. But thank you so much for your time on the news. Taiwo Ojumu, a legal practitioner, as well as a public affairs analyst. Many thanks indeed.
Thank you for having me once again.
And now let's connect with our correspondent who is in the heartbeat of the nation, and that's Edo State, Amadine Uyi. Amadine, good morning. Glad to have you join me on the news. What's the latest from Edo State? Okay, seems we lost connection with our correspondent there, Amadine Uyi, who is live in Edo State to bring us up to speed with how things are taking shape there. Amadine, are you there? Amadine?
Yes,
if you can hear me, how is the heartbeat of the nation doing, Edo State? What's the latest?
Loud and clear. Okay, right now we are at the Ovia South local government area, Igobazwa, which is the local government headquarters. We had intended to reach the INEC office, which is just a few meters from here, to ascertain if preparations for the poll tomorrow. We had met with several of residents here. Several of the residents here, and a lot of them have indicated interest in participating in the poll for tomorrow. Political parties rounded up their campaigns as of yesterday night because the law stipulates that they must stop campaign 24 hours before the election. So right now, they are just underground moves, still wooing voters, but not publicly anymore.
All right, Amadine, from your observations, how prepared is the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, for this election?
INEC has stated a few days ago that it was ready for the poll. It set out guidelines, set out steps it would meet up, and had spoken to stakeholders that it was ready. It had fulfilled almost all the steps that it had laid out in preparation for the poll. Yesterday, INEC commenced distribution of non-sensitive materials. Today, INEC is going to be briefing its polling unit agents and other senior officials responsible for conducting the poll. We are hoping that just as INEC said, they will keep to their word that the poll will be free, fair, and credible. But INEC has gone ahead to assuage the feeling of political parties, saying that it will stand as a neutral umpire to ensure that the polls are credible. And INEC tasked the political parties to go ahead and ensure that on their own part, they do not resort to violence and they let the electoral body do its job.
All right, thank you so much, Amadine Uyi. We'll keep in touch with you to see how things take shape in Edo State. Do stay safe. Coming up after the break, Nigerian government on again to settle out of court. Join us again. Thank you for staying tuned. The Court of Appeal Abuja Division has on Thursday approved a proposal by the federal government to settle out of court with former Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onogen, who is challenging his premature removal from office in 2019. The three-man appellate court panel led by Justice Joseph Oyewole also gave the parties November 19, 2024 to return to the courts with their settlement terms for possible adoption as a judgment of the court in the dispute. Onogen, the 21st CGN, was removed from office in 2019 by the Code of Conduct Tribunal, which convicted him of failing to declare his assets as a public official. Away from the Edo election, President of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Joe Ajaero, has denied any involvement with the wanted Briton, Andrew Wynne. Wynne was declared wanted of allegations of funding the End Bad Governance protest to allegedly overthrow the government of President Bola Tinubu. Ajaero, who was speaking after a recent meeting in Lagos, alleged that the Nigerian government may have planted the wanted suspect in his office to indict the union. Recall that the Labour leader was arrested by operatives of the Department of State Services at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, on his way to the United Kingdom for an official assignment.
The person they are talking, is possible the government planted him in the NLC office. Because the person is known to have worked either in World Bank and various government establishments. And it wasn't the NLC that gave him visa. And has been in Nigeria for 20-something years. And has no relationship with us, contractual relationship, or even tenant-landlord relationship. None. So why are you now throwing those things at us? A Briton was not brought into the country. NLC does not give people visa. We didn't bring him. We gave that place to a socialist democratic movement. And then I think he's a member and he's selling book there. So why are you now trying to put it on our head? Whereas why he was consulting for various state governments in Nigeria and even the federal under the ILO, sorry, under the World Bank, it wasn't for NLC.
A top beverage company has announced plans to invest $1 billion in Nigeria's economy over the next 5 years. And during a meeting with Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu, the company's President and Chief Financial Officer, John Murphy, announced on Thursday in Abuja that the business in Nigeria generates 320 billion naira annually to the company through nearly 300,000 customers. President Tinubu, while responding, reiterated his government's commitment to creating a robust financial system and a business-friendly economy that will attract more foreign direct investments. In the meantime, the Presidential Committee on Livestock Sector Reforms Implementation has submitted its inception report to President Bola Tinubu. The committee submitted its report to the President at the State House in Abuja on Thursday. And speaking to journalists shortly after the meeting with the President, the chairman of the committee, Professor Hydrological, said the committee was able to identify measures on how the Nigerian government can judiciously utilize the livestock industry in the country. According to him, the committee's position is that it would be counterproductive to immediately stop open grazing as a traditional method of pastoralism.
From different disciplines, but especially most of us are drawn from the animal science, veterinary science, social sciences, and so on. So as many of you may recall, Mr. President inaugurated this committee on the 9th of July. And the committee began work immediately after inauguration. And we have been able now to produce what we call an inception report, which contains very wide-ranging recommendations as to how our country can tap the potentials of the livestock sector in terms of opening up the value chain in this sector and ensuring that by so doing, we develop all sectors in the value chains to enhance economic growth and development, create jobs, and also ensure that we are not only able to bring about food, feed, and nutrition security, but we are also able to significantly begin to export many of the products that are associated with this sector. We believe that there has been a neglect of this sector for a very long time, and we are very happy that Mr. President has recognized the need to redress this neglect and has invited us to contribute to finding ways and the means of unlocking the opportunities in this sector.
The Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency says water from the Lagdo Dam in Cameroon has been released into rivers Niger and Benue. It warned Nigerians residents in floodplain areas to relocate immediately to safe spaces in anticipation of attended floods that annually come with the release of water from the dam. NIHSA Director General Umar Mohammed, who gave the warning during an interview, said his agency met with the authorities in Cameroon and agreed that water from the dam be released intermittently for the River Benue and River Niger in Nigeria to be able to contain the volume of water to avoid flooding in 11 states at risk. The General Officer commanding 3 Armored Division and Commander Operation Safe Haven, the Major General Salam Abubakar, has assured his commitment to peace process in Plateau State and its environs. Major General Abubakar was speaking when he received the executive members of the Correspondent Chapel of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, Plateau State Council, who paid him a courtesy call in his office. Our correspondent Chizobe Anonwe tells us more.
Journalists on the plateau have had many engagements in conjunction with the Nigerian military in the state. These include the Peace Summit for teenagers embarking in Ladi local government area of the state and the Work for Peace for journalists and the military to always keep fit in the delivery of their job. To say that without peace, nothing will thrive in any society cannot be overemphasized. That has remained the reason for the collaborative efforts between the members of the 4th Estate of the Realm and the men in boots. Addressing the executive members of the Correspondent Chapel of the NUJ in Plateau State at the 3 Division headquarters, the GOC assured of his command's partnership with journalists while maintaining that objective reportage remains key for a peaceful society.
Thank you most sincerely for this collaboration and this synergy which we have enjoyed. As we speak, some of the successes that we have recorded in the last couple of months, which you have all helped to help us air in your respective media platforms, were achievements because we employed technology. And that is the way forward. That is what armies all over do. When you can't have boots everywhere, you cover those gaps with technology, which is some of what we are using now. Has slightly reduced the tension on the plateau, has enhanced security, socio-economic activities have picked up, people are going about their businesses.
Chairman of the Correspondent Chapel in the state, who led other executive members on the courtesy call, commended the GOC for his efforts in maintaining peace on the plateau for development to thrive.
I want to tell you that we will continue to support you because as 4th Estate of the Realm, we also owe the Nigerian Army a duty, and we also owe the Federal Republic of Nigeria a duty to report the positive aspects and the efforts of the security agencies, particularly the Nigerian Army, towards ensuring a peaceful and tranquil plateau.
More collaborative efforts between the men of the pen and those with the gun remain essential if sustainable peace and development will be achieved on the plateau. In Just for News Central, Chizoba and
Christian leaders in Africa have called for unity in addressing the challenges affecting the continent. And this was as the Lutheran Church of Christ in Nigeria hosted the 2024 Lutheran Church Leadership Consultation in Abuja, where participants called on Christian community to speak truth to power with love. They also called on the church in Nigeria to give strong moral leadership to the nation.
Africa is passing through a very difficult time at this time, and the church must stand up and give very strong moral leadership. And by this, I also mean that it is not just about criticizing those in authority, but finding ways to assist them in prayers and to speak to power in love.
Globally, there are challenges, and I believe that the church in Africa, particularly the Lutheran church, which is a very traditional evangelical church, has a responsibility in driving that process of conversation in terms of finding mutual understanding and peace in the community so that the communities themselves will begin to thrive.
The church must lead by example, by uniting. But the church must also be a source of hope. We must never give up, no matter the challenges we are facing. We can together address them, not only as churches, but together with the wider society, with government institutions and other religious bodies.
Coming up, mpox vaccines administered in Rwanda for the first time in Africa. Details in a moment. Thank you for staying with us. The United Nations Refugee Agency says the number of refugees and forcibly displaced people in West and Central Africa has doubled since 2019, reaching nearly 14 million. According to the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, the figure has climbed from 6.5 million refugees and internally displaced persons in 2019 to 13.7 million in 2024. UNHCR Regional Director Abdurauf Konde says it expects this number to rise to 15 million by the end of 2025. With many displaced people unable to return home, some of them for decades, the UNHCR urged host countries to integrate refugees into their development programs. In East Africa, the African Union's Disease Control Center says mpox vaccines have been administered in Africa for the first time, with several hundred high-risk individuals vaccinated in Rwanda. According to a spokesperson for the AU's Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the first 300 doses were administered on Tuesday near the border with Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, has been the worst affected country, with nearly 22,000 cases and more than 700 deaths linked to the virus between January and August. Africa's CDC Director General John Keseya said vaccinations would start in the DRC in the first week of October. The World Health Organization last week pre-qualified an mpox vaccine, MVABN, for the first time, paving the way for the United Nations and other international agencies to procure them. Pressure persists on the Malawian kwacha as it drops 2.3% against other currencies in 6 months of 2024. According to a recent financial stability report published by Reserve Bank of Malawi, kwacha depreciated by 3.1% against dollar in both authorized dealer banks, translating to a loss of 52.05 kwacha in value. Malawi's currency's drop has sparked concerns for some consumers in the southern African country that basic goods will soar in price. Economists say a fall in the currency makes all imports more expensive, and a rise in prices will be passed on to the consumers. And to talk about this, we're joined by Dr. Bertha Bangara Chikadza, President of Economics Association of Malawi. Good afternoon from here. Good morning, rather, from here. Glad to have you join me on the news. Let me start by asking what you believe are the primary factors contributing to the recent 2.3% drop in the value of the Malawi kwacha against the US dollar.
Thank you. As you know, this country has been facing a couple of challenges. We are an importing country, and we were faced by, El Nino this year, so we did not produce enough food. But on top of that, we had also, problems that have been consistent. So the country is experiencing high debt levels. It is also importing a lot, and then we don't even have enough food. And a lot of things are putting pressure on the kwacha. The high inflation, the high debt, and also lack of food, which is spiraling up inflation, and so many other things. So economically, the economy is not all that well, and everything that is happening is just putting pressure on the kwacha because we are not able to generate even enough foreign exchange to finance everything that we need to import as a country. So basically, things are not all that well. Thank you.
I'd like you to speak further. I know you touched on how this is impacting inflation as well as availability of food in Malawi. But then expatiate on this drop in the kwacha. How does it influence Malawi's trade balance, particularly in terms of imports and also exports?
Yes, like I said, we are heavily importing economy. And so a depreciation of the kwacha is not a good thing for a country like Malawi, because almost everything will be going up in terms of fertilizer. All the production that happens in the country relies on imported fertilizer. And as long as we're seeing a depreciation in the kwacha, then we mean everything that the farmers use, fertilizer, herbicides, even, some seeds, then they will all come in with a high price. So it means that production will happen, at a high price, and that will also filter, everything that happens in the economy. At the end of the day, it's the lay person or the person in the village, these ones who are going to feel the impact, because everything that happens will be actually passed on to the consumer. So being an importing country, as we're importing with a kwacha that is falling, then we will be paying more, but also we'll be depleting, even the reserves that we had, which we did not generate even enough for this economy to cater for all the imports that we need. So it is actually a situation that is painful to Malawians, because the prices will be rising. Since prices of imports, when they come into the country, everything, all the markup will be passed on to the normal consumer who's in the country.
Dr. Betha, let me follow your perspective. You talked about Malawi being an important country. What economic adjustments would you prefer be made to ensure increased value of the kwacha?
For the kwacha to gain value, it's an issue of structural things that need to be changed. Even the way we produce, you heard, I think maybe the Minister of Agriculture, but also the President has been touting about mega farms, ATM strategy, because we've noted that previously we could produce, but we were producing in small amounts, just maybe for consumption, and what we are exporting is just a little. So we need to export more in terms of if we are focusing on the agricultural sector, then we need to focus on the mega farming, where we can farm on large scale. But on top of that, because we are a country that is vulnerable to climate change, so we also need, irrigation facilities that can, irrigate these other farms, so that at least we can produce maybe 2-3 times a year and export more than just relying on the normal rains that come. But on top of that, we are talking about mining issues. So the more we invest in mining, then we should be also able to get something and export. So we've seen some mining agreements being signed by the government and other companies that are coming in. So we are also thinking that probably these can push the exports level that we get as a country. And on top of that, we might be able to get the foreign exchange reserves that we need. And then these might stabilize the kwacha. But also we need food, because we have been a country that has been food insecure, and because we import more food, this also continuously put pressure on the kwacha and destabilizes the currency. Well, so some of these things have started being made, and we hope that we'll see good progress at the end of the year.
Well, indeed, we do hope these recommendations are implemented and ensure that the value of the kwacha improves. But thank you so much for your perspective on the news, Dr. Betha Bangara Chikadza, President of Economics Association of Malawi. Many thanks indeed.
Thank you so much.
Former U.S. President and Republican Party candidate Donald Trump has promised to confront what he described as America's ugly tide of anti-Semitic, pro-Hamas bigotry and hate if elected in November. Trump, during an event titled Fighting Anti-Semitism in America in Washington, D.C., said he will be the best friend Jewish Americans have ever had in the White House.
To believe, yet despite presiding over this explosion of anti-Semitism. Kamala Harris has done absolutely nothing. She has not lifted a single finger to protect you or to protect your children or to even protect you with words. I'm here today to tell the Jewish American community that this ugly tide of anti-Semitic, pro-Hamas bigotry and hate will be turned back and crushed starting at noon on January 20th, 2025. Never seen anything like it. My promise to Jewish Americans is this: with your vote, I will be your defender, your protector, and I will be the best friend Jewish Americans have ever had in the White House.
In sports, about 120 universities in Nigeria and 36 others from Africa have started arriving in Lagos for the 11th All-Africa University Games, which is co-hosted by the University of Lagos and Lagos State University from Friday, September 20th today to September 29th. The opening ceremony of the event will be held at the Unilag Sports Complex on Saturday as the competition returns to Nigeria for the first time in 20 years. Nigeria hosted the third FASU Games in 2004 at the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University in Bauchi. This edition of the Games holds historical significance as it marks the first ever joint hosting by two universities. Flying Eagles head coach Aliyu Zubairu has assured Nigerians that he will lead the Nigeria Under-20 boys to the 2024 West African Football Union B Under-20 Championship and pick one of the two tickets to the CAF Under-20 African Nations Cup. The coach said the major competition before the team is the WAFU B Championship, and eventually qualifying for the Under-20 AFCON is not going to be negotiable. Following a shortage of time for preparation, he has, however, asked the NFF to help with the list of experienced and eligible players who have played in the competition before to compete successfully. The WAFU Zone B Under-20 Championship is an age-grade regional football tournament that is contested by national teams of Zone B of the West African Football Union. Atletico Madrid scored a 90th minute winner through Jose Gimenez header against RB Leipzig in their Champions League opener at the Wanda Metropolitano Stadium in Spain. Benjamin Sesko headed the German visitors into 4th-minute lead before Antoine Griezmann equalized after 28 minutes with his 37th goal in the competition. France World Cup winner Griezmann scored from 12 yards with a volleyed effort and was denied a second goal by a fine save from RB Leipzig, the keeper Peter Gulasis. Meanwhile, RB Leipzig will host Juventus next in the competition on the 2nd of October, while Atletico Madrid are away to Benfica on the same date. And that's all on the news. Let's take a look again at some of the major stories. Nigeria police have assured voters of safety and security ahead of Edo governorship election. Mpox vaccines administered in Rwanda for the first time in Africa. The United Nations said about 14 million people have been displaced in West and Central Africa due to insecurity. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen and do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Adebola Adedugba.